is subject, but what Dr. Ahmed is saying is the RDF. It is thermal energy for cement coming from the waste. I will explain this today. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so let's start. I just want to make sure Malak is back because she's working in the background هنا اهو. وانا عايزين علي ابو سنه فين علي؟ ممكن دكتور علي ابو سنه هخليه يقعد على الطرف هنا هو يتحركوا جوه. بالظبط هو هيقعد على الطرف اتفضل حضرتك. هو هيقعد على اللي دي ده قلعه فاميلي. لا اتفضل حضرتك هنا معايا اتفضل. Hello. All right. So it's good stuff now, so I can get as much time as possible. Okay. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think we are all at COP27. We can see the developments. We can see that after 26 COPs, we're finally coming together to talk about action and implementation. As climate change continues to impact global economies, businesses, and communities across the world, accelerating the transition to a low carbon economy is more important than ever. It's very clear a global unified effort is needed. Meeting this challenge will require nothing less than transformative changes across our economy. According to Goldman Sachs, the Global Investment Research Group, estimating that 56 trillion in incremental infrastructure investment is needed to achieve the net zero carbon emissions by 2050. They also estimate that half of the decarbonization required is reliant on access to clean power generation, and that the decarbonization of transport, buildings, industry will all require a complex ecosystem of low carbon technologies, including energy storage, carbon capture, alongside the supply of clean power. There's also a significant challenge that is in many parts of the world, particularly in Africa and emerging markets, inexpensive, reliable, and clean energy, SDG 7, is not available at the scale that is required. It's clear we cannot build a future using the same formula that brought us here. This session will demonstrate the developmental role the private sector, as part of that holistic approach to trying to achieve the development required and change required, can play, and the power of bringing transformative green projects to life through the alignment of government vision, smart policy and regulations, green condition financing, and agile and pioneering private sector participation. We will showcase and demonstrate through several private sector companies the journey towards decarbonization and how it can be achieved. We will highlight how to integrate responsible climate action and ESG practices in doing business and for competitive advantage, making it a win-win formula for all. Allow me to welcome my guest speakers today. We have on our panel from the government, representing Dr. Yasmin Fouad, Minister of Environment and COP27 Climate Envoy of Egypt, Dr. Ali Abu Senna, Senior CEO of the Egyptian Environmental Affairs Agency and Minister of Environment Assistant for Projects. We have from EBRD, Ms. Heike Harmgaard, Managing Director, Southern and Eastern Mediterranean Region. Thank you for coming and joining us with all your busy schedule. And Dr. Ahmed Heikel and several representatives from the portfolio companies. Founder and Chairman of Qalaa Holdings, Dr. Ahmed Heikel, Taqa Arabiya CEO, Ms. Pakinem Kafafi, Ikaro CEO, Dr. Hisham Sharif, the Egyptian Refining Company representative, Ms. Alia Heikel, the Chief Financial Officer, and I'm happy 4 women. It's balanced. There is gender equality is achieved. SDG 5 is ticked off. And we also have from ASCOM, Mr. Mohammed Saeed, QHSE Manager at Glassrock Company. Dr. Ali Abu Senna, I'd like you to kick off for us and give us just a word about the Ministry of Environment and your vision of the role of the private sector, how we can collaborate towards achieving the climate action, the decarbonization that is required and that is needed.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation, and it's my pleasure to be with you today. And I would like just to start with the journey for decarbonization. The file of environmental protection started a long time ago by first distribution of pollution to just saying that it is not in my backyard. Then, after this, we have been moving forward to go for more control of pollution, and then for prevention, and then for resource efficiency and the cleaner product. And now we are speaking more globally about decarbonization, and this is part of the agenda of climate change. It's a message from COP27. It's a COP for implementation. So it means that the scientific evidence for having impact of climate change is there. There is no doubt about this. So the responsibility of government, the private sector, NGO, academia, to work together for this very critical challenge that we are all facing worldwide. So, coming to the decarbonization issue, and this is the day of decarbonization and the role of the private sector, as we were discussing over the day, the decarbonization could be opportunity and for investment, and all statistics and economics for moving for decarbonization is much cheaper than treating the impact of the climate change. So indeed, it's very clear that the role of the industry and the role of the private sector is very crucial to looking forward how to come to be more sustainable, how to meet the environmental requirement. Otherwise, you will not be able to find even a market or access to international market. This will be one of the requirement worldwide. So it is very important this type of partnership between government, as they are the policy leaders, they are putting the policies and the regulation strategies, and in consultation with the private sector, in a partnership, we have to move forward with this. So the issue is that the environmental compliance or resource efficiency, it is not burden on the industry. It's actually it's a saving in energy, it's a saving of water, it's a saving of raw material. It means it is a competitiveness. You are more competitive, and this is the dilemma that we would like to describe and always in our discussion with the private sector, with the industry. This is a very competitive way to go and to compliance with the environmental regulation. And this is there is no doubt that the impact of the environmental pollution will be impacting on the economic situation. And this is why we are all here worldwide gathering here in a COP for implementation to put a right way ahead how we can move together. So back to the question, it is very important role for the private sector engagement with the public and with other stakeholders, and taking it as opportunity. Like now we have differentiation related to moving for green hydrogen. It's a future opportunity that will be, we have to start from right now to think as a private sector, as investors in this, because this will be the future. So you start it now rather than you start it later. So this is something very important. This is why the government, or the Ministry of Environment, we are, when we were preparing the national strategy for climate change, we were involving the private sector, the Federation of Egyptian Industry, to review and put their thoughts how they can really, how it is look like. And by the end, the national strategy of climate change ended up with 127 bankable projects that could be opportunities for private sector to think about in terms of using solar energy for desalination of water, in terms of other renewable energy application, moving to green hydrogen, So and we moved actually this strategy to a business plan or investment plan. So I think the role of the private sector is very crucial, of course, with the other support from international financing mechanism and banking and others will be really catalyst for this. So I'm happy to be with you and just to ensure about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as we talk to the founder and chairman of Qalaa Holdings, um, Qalaa has been among the first regional adopters of the concept of responsible investing, having an investment strategy that actually looks at the environmental, social, and governance aspects. For many reasons, been part of the DNA. Part of it is the investors, the DFIs that we've been with, um, building businesses sustainably and responsibly for over 17 years. Joining early on the 177 companies signing the net zero pledge, also signing just yesterday the business joining the African Business Leadership Coalition. And I think as we look at the size and the scope, a lot of companies, as they look at decarbonization, they have to look at one sector. Qalaa, you have built a company that has diverse sectors. So you look at horizontally and vertically how you really can embark on that journey of decarbonization and what have you been doing. Can you share with us the story of how a regional conglomerate can balance its climate and emissions footprint across such a wide range of sectors while meeting the country's developmental targets and nationally determined contributions, Dr. Ahmed?
I have to tell you that when we started Qalaa, we were clearly faced with a strategy that was going to come as a result of the problems that are going to face Egypt. Starting 2000, Egypt passed from being a net exporter of energy to a net importer of energy. And as a result of very bad policies that existed at the time, the rate of increase in the consumption was extremely high, and the rate of new discoveries of petroleum products was low. So Egypt passed from being a net zero importer of oil in 2000 to today 200 million barrels of petroleum products per annum. That automatically means that when oil prices go up, that causes a lot of problems for the current account, and it causes a lot of problems on the dollar, on the exchange rate. So we thought that we saw that very clearly starting 2000. When we formed Qalaa in 2004, we thought that we needed to work on a multitude of things. One is improve the efficiency of energy utilization in the Egyptian economy, and that is glass rock, which is insulation material that reduces the consumption of energy. Prior to that, Egypt did not have insulation. That is Nile River by way of transportation, because that on a per ton kilometer of transportation, you are reducing significantly the energy utilization. That meant that we needed to move to better utilization of energies. So changing, for example, from diesel to burn, to generate electricity, to natural gas to generate electricity. In some cases, solar power plants and renewables come into the mix. So there were a multitude of recycling of material, of circular economy, of better efficient utilization of energy, better optimization of which energies in which places to do, like solar again. circular is taking the fuel oil that comes out and is burned in power plants and generates Euro 5 products out of them while observing the best environmental standards, etc. There is a lot of dogma that is taking place today regarding, is CAP about green or is CAP about reduction of emission? If it's reduction of emission, then I'm part of the solution, a big part of the solution. If it is green, then I am a small part of the solution. I believe that the net zero cannot take place without defining that it is a reduction of emission and not green, because you can make a huge impact with very small investments in removing carbon very quickly from the environment and meeting 2030 and 2050 and if you want to generate new projects every time with huge financing in order to replace, it becomes an exercise in futility, in my view, and it will take a very long period of time, and we will fall short of the goals. I want to give the opportunity for every one of my colleagues here to explain how they are part of the solution in reducing emissions.
Yes,
Heike, I want to
no,
first
I want to.
give,
Yeah.
give you.
We're here. I mean, I think the theme that Qalaa has been using for all of its sessions during COP is talking about the importance of the power of the trio: the government regulations, the DFIs, and the green condition financing, and the private sector. So, COP27 in particular is an African COP where the voice is unified to highlight the special needs and circumstances of the African continent for a just pragmatic transition. And part of what you're hearing is we need it to be pragmatic transition that balances the historically low emissions of Africa with its developmental aspirations in order to alleviate all the food insecurity, energy insecurity, or and poverty, as well as achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. With an estimated funding gap volumes for climate action globally to be 2 to 3 trillion annually, it's unfair for the developing countries to carry the burden alone. However, EBRD has been one of the main DFIs that focuses on promoting private to private, green, sustainable energy projects, aiming at developing societies and providing better quality of life. How do you see the future of renewable markets, Egypt, and in the region? And what are some of the main steps EBRD is taking to expand this presence? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. And I just want to say to Dr. Ahmed, I think you're a large part of the solution, not a small part, because I think it is actually about the efforts of the private sector to grasp opportunities to reduce emissions across the industry and across the value chain. So I think you are a large part of the solution, not a small part. And then maybe I'm just super happy to be here on Decarbonization Day, because Decarbonization Day is really something that reaches across all the economy. And I think all parts of the economy can make a contribution to reduce emissions. And I think why we're here is also to make sure that this is a win-win situation for the private sector, the government, and that's why we are here to support de-risking and investing in long-term sustainable solutions, but also solutions that are scalable, solutions that make economic sense, and solutions that react. I think it's a great story how you became really focused on this, because you saw that there's volatility in the market, that there are external shocks, and you want to be resilient as a private sector and want to continue doing your business. And I think that's also something where, you know, development banks come into the mix. And I'm only here for 2 years in Egypt, and one of really my first deals that I signed was actually the private-to-private Taka Arabia solar plant for Dina Farms. And I think this is exactly this circular part of the economy solution, reducing your emissions in whatever industry you are. People were thinking, you know, is this agriculture, is that really the most important? You can reduce emissions dramatically in agriculture. You can replace so decarbonize through renewables, but also I always like this phrase that the first source of energy is efficiency. So I mean, yes, we're all looking into accelerating more renewables, and I'm like the big fan of renewables. Buckingham is a bigger fan, but I think we all want to have more wind, more solar, and I think Egypt is a renewable superpower in this field. But the first source is really efficiency, and I think that's what we can also discuss. And it always sounds a bit less sexy that you think, oh, you just, you're insulating better, you're creating more efficient processes, you're looking from A to Z in your value chain. But ultimately, this is actually making a huge contribution also to the bottom line. And I think we're not here to, we will never get there if we feel the green future is a subsidized future. The green future needs to be a future where economies can grow. So efficiency is actually one that has the fastest turnaround often in terms of green investment. So I feel Decarbonization Day is a good day where we open up the support that the private sector can do to decarbonize their own economies, but also with a view to grow, with a view to actually remain competitive globally, because they have actually a better bottom line, because they save energy costs, replace expensive energy with cheap solar energy. So I think my message as a bank is I'm very happy if companies look at the bottom line and want to reduce emissions also because they want to reduce costs, because only then it's sustainable. And so I hope that, mobilizing private finance and of course some concessional finance if needed, we can really accelerate this transition through decarbonization, through efficiency, but also more renewables. And so I'm incredibly happy to be here and be a partner of this innovative group of people that have grasped this very early on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can you please pass it on to Fatma? So, as we start to go down the journey or the path of all examples of all the different companies in the portfolio of Qalaa Holdings, I want to start with Ms. Pakinan Kafefi. Qalaa Arabiya has taken a huge leap in tailoring sustainable energy solutions at large scale, at small scale, a wide range of clients through private to private partnerships. Could you take us through the success story of such P2P partnerships and your net zero emission target strategy?
Let me start with our.
I will just request that each company please introduce what you do, because I don't think everyone is aware of the scope of
Qalaa
services.
Arabiya is the largest energy distribution private sector company in Egypt. We work in different sectors. We work in we have Taka Power, Taka Gas, Taka Water, Desalination, Taka Petroleum. We started the journey since 2006 when we acquired we had some acquisitions to companies that were using only diesel and HFO. And then we went from 2006 to 2016 to completely shutting off the diesel and using the gas in the conventional and trying, and as Dr. Ahmed said and Haika, it was mainly the awareness was not renewable and green as much as we were talking about efficiency and how we can make our projects as efficient as we can. So at that time, gas was more efficient, cogeneration is more efficient, trigeneration is more efficient. And then when we started realized that about the green and understanding the technology and taking the opportunity to be part of the feeding tariff, Bimben, being the only Egyptian company there approved by DFIs, we said we are going to do it with the most efficient, less capex, and we did it, and we were number one in the round two. What happened after that, as a company, and it's not only as a company, as the holding company, Dr. Ahmed and the strategy, we believe in private to private. We believe that one day when it's fully liberalized, government has to concentrate in transmission, working as a guidance, as a monitoring, but it has to be private to private. But we're not going to wait for the phasing. We had to start. We had to be initiated. It helped us a lot that our holding company has a group of companies and he's a believer. Because believe it or not, it's not easy to explain to clients the climate. We are so happy that we have the COP27 in Egypt to start to have awareness. I have clients, I go to them and talk about the climate, and they say to me, the only green I know is dollars. How much you're saving me? And that's reality. We need we have a lot to do in order to make the awareness. But we succeeded to make almost like 40 or 50% increase in the last 2 years. We managed to decrease in here in Sharm el-Sheikh 30% of the utilization of the grid. In Dina Farm, it was 18%. In Ascom, it's expected to be 16. And I'm happy to say that end of 2022, I'll have 100,000 tons of reducing CO2. And I hope that I see it 2 million.
Can we play the video, please?
So we'll see the video of Dina Farm, and then we'll see the video of Bimban.
Thank you. Bringing green energy to the world. All right. And moving from a full utilities company, energy solutions companies, to solid waste management and waste management. Doctor, can please come back? Lala, please come back. We need you on the podium.
Well,
He's a professor, you can tell. He's a professor at Armenia University, and he just loves being standing. Please sit down.
well, just to keep everybody aware that Egyptian decarbonization model in Africa, ICARO case study. So I will give Egypt track record, which could be applied for African countries. You know, thanks Dr. Ahmed for giving us this opportunity to discuss the decarbonization subject. Thank you, Ghada, for arranging this event. And thank you that Dr. Yasmin Fuad was visiting us last month. And Dr. Ali Abu Senna is my close friend since ages, you know. And please allow me to give some figures and facts. You know, Bakinam and Dr. Ahmed and everybody is talking about decarbonization from energy sector, from transportation sector, from agriculture sector, but the big part of the problem is not only the energy sector. The big part is the waste management sector. So the amount of carbon emission reduction coming from waste and related to the waste, this is my presentation, which I will focus on. The journey started 1995 with a small project with the Ministry of Scientific Research. It was a pilot project financed by SCTC, Science and Technology Cooperation Project, to do some sort of solid waste management or rural areas village. So the first composting facility has been built in 1997. The first composting facility from municipal solid waste has been built in 1998. And the first ton of RDF supplied to the cement industry has been started in 2009. So from 1995 until 2022, it is a long journey. And why I am here today? I am here to say that carbon emission reduction from municipal solid waste is coming from where? You know, Egypt is generating up to 25 million tons of municipal solid waste annually. 50% of that is organic residues. We are transporting this municipal mixed solid waste to either open dump site or even landfills. So anaerobically, in the absence of air or oxygen, this organic residues will be converted to methane. So each 1 ton of methane is equivalent to 21 ton of CO2. So if we prevent disposing the organic residues to the landfill and converted this material to soil conditioner or to anaerobic digestion or whatever the technology is, that means we are helping the worldwide to reduce the methane gas generation. Fortunately, Egypt and more than 121 countries right now already signed in 2022 a project called Global Methane Pledge. That means it is not joke. It has become more serious than the past, and each country will be, you know, controlled using NASA satellite to identify how much methane will be generated from each country. So what I am saying, does ICARO already, since 20 years ago, was taking in their consideration this strategy? Yes. In 2012, ICARO is the only CDM certified company from the UNFCCC for Cairo South project to reduce up to 250,000 tons of CO2. This is a registered project, and it is registered in 2012. In 2001, ICARO signed for 18 years a project with the Qahliya Governorate, and we are going to produce carbon emission reduction certificate identical to what we have done in Cairo South. This is the part related to the waste management. The other part is from this waste, we could produce from 15 to 20% of the waste a material called RDF. This RDF, you were asking me about the waste to energy. This is the waste to energy chapter. But you know, we do some technology called MBT, and thanks to EBRD, they are financing this year 4 projects, one in the Kahliya, 3 in Kafr Sheikh, and I heard that even in November they will finance another 4 projects for Gharbiya and for some other Delta Governorate, and hopefully we will continue, or we will share with you our 25 years experience in this regard. So the other part related to the carbon emission reduction from waste is the RDF. You know, the most heavy energy consuming energy is the cement industry in Egypt. What is the prevailing fuel? What are the prevailing fuel? The prevailing fuel used to be natural gas, fuel oil, but today they are relying mainly on coal and petcoke. So coal and petcoke are heavily generating CO2. Then Icaro since 2010 managed to supply RDF and BDF. RDF is the refuse derived fuel. It is solid fuel coming from solid waste. And BDF, it is biomass derived fuel. It is solid fuel coming from biomasses. And fortunately, we are today supplying a minimum of 300,000 tons of RDF and biomass. These are equivalent to 150,000 tons of coal and petcoke. Why? Because the net as received calorific value of the BDF and the RDF is more or less 50% like the one in coal and petcoke. So by using the RDF, the cement sector could be applied for CDM project, clean development mechanism project, to reduce the carbon emission, not from the methane, but from the CO2. But without securing enough amount of RDF and BDF, the formula will never work. So the other part of the story is related to a sister company of Icaro called Integ. This is the technology provider chapter. Both companies operated, owned by the same management, and Dr. Ahmed Heikel since 2009 became the major shareholder in the 2 companies, and he is great believer. Although we lost a lot of money, why we lost money? Because we were entrepreneur. We were, you know, thinking of the subject before anybody else.
Alhamdulillah, you are making a lot of money at this point in time.
Well, just for your information, in Q1 2022, the price was 500 pound per ton. In Q3, the price became 1,500 Egyptian pound per ton. I finished, if you want. Thank you.
Just in time. And I mean, thank you so much for doing this. And the passion you have is incredible, and the patience you have.
Thank you.
Now we move from solid waste management to sustainable cities and efficient buildings. There is no way we can move to low carbon and decarbonize if we do not also look at cities. And if we don't look at cities and we don't look at buildings in particular, you have a solution in insulation, thermal insulation field, with all its innovative solutions, and it plays vital role in reducing the carbon emissions. Can you tell us more about the company's decarbonization plans, please, with all the innovative solutions you have and leverage and are leveraging?
Thank you so much, Ms. Ghada. If you allow me to stand up, please, just to show some figures.
Please.
First of all, my greetings to everybody. This is Mohammed Saeed, QHSE manager, working for Glass Rock Insulation Company. Glass Rock Insulation Company is the leader for manufacturing of insulation material, specifically rock wool as well as glass wool. Glass Rock Insulation Company inaugurated in Egypt at Sadat City at equal distance between Alexandria and Cairo. Our maximum designated capacity, around 50 kilotons of insulation materials among rock wool as well as glass wool. We are producing with maximum designed capacity for the rock wool around 30 kilotons annually, while for glass wool around 20 kilotons annually. very rarely, barely worldwide to find two in one. By the meaning we have two production lines under the same umbrella with this huge capacity among the insulation materials. Actually, the literature and the academia introduce and define glass wool as well as rock wool industries as energy intensive industries. This is the dark side of the story. Looking at this table and this figure, it is evident that when we insulate the building and envelop the buildings and insulate the building equipment, there is a significant reduction in carbon dioxide emissions. How this happen? All of us know that physically, heat transfer takes place by conduction convection radiation. We are producing man-made vitreous fiber. Through the intersecting fibers of rock wool and the glass wool, they can entrap the hot air inside its pores, by the meaning that stagnant air thermal conductivity almost equal 0.025 watt per meter Kelvin. When rock wool and the glass wool entrap the hot air, the thermal conductivity of our products reach up to 0.03 watt per meter Kelvin, almost equal to the stagnant air. This means that our products have very low thermal conductivity, achieving a reduction in power up to 40%. Consequently, reduce the carbon dioxide emissions by these huge values showing in the green font. Next, please. Through our environmental management system as well as energy management system, as we members in Qalaa Holdings who adopt the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDG. Consequently, we have established our environmental objectives and start our decarbonization operational matrix. Actually, we believe that decarbonization is not a destination. Decarbonization is a journey, not a destination, which is why we are working for a global vision, a global target, cascading to smarter or smart objectives. Those objectives including but not limited to carbon dioxide emissions reduction. Good news that by closing this year, to date, 22, we have reduced our carbon dioxide emissions by around minus 20% from the base year 2019. In the next slide, I will show how we do this.
Okay.
In our process, we support the circular economy. We are recycling around 80% from the broken glass, which is namely cullet. Cullet or glass is non-biodegradable, so the bacteria cannot degrade. So when we recycle up to 80% from the glass, we can reduce the energy. Consequently, we can reduce the carbon dioxide emissions by reduction in the power that purchased through our factories. Our conversion ratio that 1 meter cube of raw materials can produce up to 150 meter cube of mineral wool. This pie chart showing that the big cake of energy go for domestic buildings. We can provide the solution. When insulate your building, you can reduce the energy bill 40%, which means that we can reduce the carbon dioxide emission significantly. Next, our innovation toward the decarbonization. By start of this year, our R&D team produced friendly products, eco-friendly glass wool. It's our know-how, state-of-art, done and proud that this is the first green product produced by Egyptian know-how. Contains no formalin or formaldehyde, no phenol, 100% eco-friendly. This product can reduce up to 40 to 45 energy consumption, by the meaning reducing the carbon dioxide emissions around 150 metric tons among the life cycle of building, which theoretically 50 years. Equivalent as well to 1 million kilometer traveled by car. So this is our innovative product toward the decarbonization. Finally, improvement has no end. We feel so proud that we working as a members in Qalaa Holding toward the sustainability and supporting sustainable development goal. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for such a passionate presentation and a promising and the aspiration and the future, what the future can hold. Because Dr. Heike has to leave, I'd like to ask her to give us what she was going to use as closing remarks, and then we will continue with the Egyptian.
This is the refinery.
Yes.
This is
Green
a new
refinery.
picture. So you have the green.
No.
The green background. No, I think, I don't, what, I know it's
It's actually
the foreground, yes. No, I think so. I don't have much to add to the passion in this room, but what I wanted to say is that you can see through the breadth of the industrial solutions that the private sector can provide, from energy to waste to building installations and efficiency, that really the private sector can make a huge contribution to decarbonizing the economy. And I think I fully agree that this is a journey that we're all on together. It's not an end goal, but it's a journey we're all on together. But I cannot highlight enough the importance of the private sector to not just go on this journey reluctantly, but what we see here is to lead on this journey. And I think that's sort of the message, that if you lead on this journey, you really will make breakthrough innovations. And there's no sector where you cannot make huge improvements in the amount of energy you save and in the amount of carbon emissions you can reduce. And I'm personally, as EBRD, we're incredibly proud and happy to be partnering with such an innovative group. And I think I'm glad to be here on Decarbonization Day, and there couldn't be a bigger role for the private sector than what we have seen today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Aika. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, please take one of you. This is one for you. And one for me. The group photo before you all. Let's do the group photo and then go back to the Egyptian refining company. All right? Dr. Yushen? Yeah. I'd like to come in the middle.
شكرا جدا.
All right, I don't want to end this session without really the most important. I mean, there's so much controversy always about when you have a range of solutions in energy and all the needs that we have in Africa to do a just and pragmatic transition, as we all talk. One cannot ignore the fact that we do need diesel. We do need currently to find a mix of energy, not just shift and directly invest in all these large infrastructure going towards renewables only. So I'd like to actually speak with Ms. Alia Heikel and have her take us through how the Egyptian refining company, which is I think one of the big projects, the largest investment by far by Qalaa Holdings, $4.4 billion US. If you can tell us how it was built, but how it has not only developed and built a state-of-the-art, environmentally friendly refinery, but the company has also pioneered in decarbonizing this second stage refinery by conducting its first GHG inventory assessment and target setting as the first company in oil and gas sector to conduct such a study. Could you please take us through this milestone and the journey?
Well, thank you very much. I'm very privileged to be here today with such extinguished panelists. I represent the Egyptian Refining Company. It's a refinery in the heart of Mustorot, Calliopeia. We produce 4.3 million ton of light products to the market. The journey with environment started since the beginning, since the design stage, from day one. So ERC is a fourth generation of technology that actually has emission reduction by 186,000 ton of sulfur dioxide, and this is just from the design stage. We've also have a comprehensive environmental management plan, starting from the ambient air quality to the soil and underground water remediation, to actually a comprehensive waste management program. So this is the comprehensive environmental plan that ERC had. Last year, ERC started to have an initiative and an objective about greenhouse gases. So the objective was to have an integrated management system for greenhouse gases. The objective was to have capacity buildings in our staff to be able to calculate the greenhouse gases themselves and to get their buy-in to have the report. We actually went through 4 phases for this GHG report, starting from the assessment of the ERC operation, and then going into calculation methodology, and then collecting data, and then producing the report. We have produced the report earlier this year, and it is, as Ghada mentioned, the first greenhouse gases report in the oil and gas industry. And the report has showed us certain potential reduction opportunities, one of which ERC is currently embarking on is the zero flaring project. What we will do is we actually will recover gases like LPG, methane, and sulfur dioxide, and we will repurpose or reuse it again as feedstock into our process units. That will increase that will reduce the emission to the environment. ERC has been always committed to transparency. We are accountable to the reduction of emissions, and we will continue our journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The refinery, please.
ودي الجنينه بتاعتي. ودي جنينه حقيقيه، دي مش جنينه هجس. خلاص، دي جنينه حقيقيه ودي صوره حقيقيه ما هياش فيها فوتوشوب يعني.
So I actually thank you, Dr. Ahmed. I mean, now that we've listened to all of these milestones, and truly it is a journey, we will get there one day, but I think the most important thing is the amount of effort and the innovation that is happening. And what I would like, I mean, we saw the impact of bringing in the trio, the power of the trio Dr. Ahmed always talks about. When we have a strong believer, the DFI that is doing green condition financing, that is supporting that transition, that is providing the capacity needed, the financial capacity needed to try to really do these private to private projects. We have every single company in every sector. It is a challenge, it's not easy, but you really lead by example. And if you start early, you can reap the benefits. I'd like to have some remarks, closing remarks from everyone on the table. Closing, ending with Dr. Ahmed as giving you. تفضل حضرتك. ادينا انت شايف وجهة نظرك.
احمد سوي.
لا حضرتك closing remarks will go across.
Actually, when we talk about insulation, we highly recommend to insulate the new buildings and effectively implement the Egyptian Energy Efficiency Code. This consequently will decarbonize much more than the figures we show in our first slides. So our challenge is to effectively implement the Egyptian energy code in all the new building and hopefully to start also with the existing building. Thank you.
My remark, I think we already committed and being in IRENA Alliance, committed to net zero 2050. We're going to target this through growing with our business, growing with our projects, generation in renewable, with hydrogen, with wind. But we are moving toward this and we're going to do it.
Well, the question is, what after COP27? Icaro was losing money since 1999, but after COP27, the government of Egypt, the government of African countries, the worldwide government will give more attention to the carbon emission reduction. What does this mean? It means there is extra income will come to the business. It will improve the financial model of the business, and for sure it will make this type of companies more profitable than the past. Thank you.
So as a refinery, we cannot commit to zero carbon emissions, so apologies for that. But what we will commit to is definitely reduce as much as possible of the emission. And whenever there is reduction opportunities, regardless of investment required, we will do it. So our commitment to Egypt and to the environment and COP27 is for ERC to continue reducing on its emission. Thank you.
Reducing emission is profitable. It's not only good for the environment, but it's profitable. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for demonstrating how the private sector can lead by example and can, in fact, make a difference and be part of that global unified effort needed to transition and decarbonize a journey that we're all on together. Thank you all, and thank you for joining us today. طب خلينا نوقف يعني عايز ايه؟